What's up, guys? Welcome to Operation B, the podcast. I am your host, Jamie Thurber, and I am here to take you on a journey of deepening, of expansion, of understanding more about who you are and why you're here and how to operate in an optimal way that allows you to do what you want to do, feel how you want to feel, take care of yourself truly, and support everything that your heart desires. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Operation B, streaming from the home studio. I wanted to share something with you that came up during my recording with Tony. So if you haven't looked back yet, I have started, or I'm going to start having guests at least once a month. So those episodes will come out, and of course, they're going to be a bit longer than my norm. My normal, if you weren't aware, I try to keep them between 20 and 30 minutes so they're easy to digest. My hope is that you find enough value in our conversations, our home studio conversations, to tune in to the guest shows, because I have cultivated this list of guests very specifically and very intentionally, and I believe that each one of them aligns really well with the conversations that we have here, with the messages that I hope reach the people who tune in and people who like them that I know need these conversations. So Tony is my fiance, and he has been a pillar in my growth as a human, as a coach, as a business owner, as someone who is taking their health seriously. And I thought it would be really unique to have him come on to the show and talk about his experiences while being the partner to someone who's dealt with, not only as an independent, strong businesswoman, but has also dealt with these health issues. And I know that I think often, I don't know if anybody else would show up the way that he does. And so I think it's a beautiful share. Anyway, so go check that out if you haven't yet. We'll link it below. But during that conversation, Tony pointed something out that I think we need to have you and me need to talk about. And it's excessive list making. So he mentions it in the show, and you can watch for more context, but the idea of that conversation is because as you know, I did live or fall prey to the hustle culture, friends. Like, I overdid it. I did too much. I would obsess over every detail. I would do entirely too much for everything. And what I have learned in the past 2 years is a lot of that has to do with being sick and having no control over what my body was doing. It also became something, because of that, it became something that was so ingrained as a part of my identity of being someone who gets things done, being someone who's superhuman productive, became such a part of my identity that without it, I didn't know what to do. And so the parallel or the line I'd like to draw for you is that maybe it's not getting a lot done. Maybe it's not being hyper productive for you. Maybe it's some other thing, but I welcome you to look a little deeper into your patterns and into your lifestyle and see if you can find a place that you have put hyper focus on as a way to feel like you have some type of control over something. So a lot of people who have anxiety or depression, who have chronic illness or chronic pain or invisible illnesses that no one can diagnose, or symptoms like exhaustion and no matter how much you sleep, and some of these things that are becoming so much more common and no one has an answer. A lot of people who have those things going on in their lives and aren't able to do what we were taught, right? We were taught at a young age, because our parents did this, like, you go to the doctor is like the be all end all. He has all the answers. That's who you trust and respect. You go to the doctor and they'll have all the answers for you, and thumbs up. That's what we do, right? That was never my experience. Past the age of like 10. Before that it was, but past that age it wasn't. So it was difficult to make sense of, come to terms with, whatever you want to call it, what was really going on with me. And instead, it was a lot easier for me to focus on work. I was surrounded my whole life growing up with really hardworking people. Everybody in my family, honestly, from my grandparents to my parents to my aunts, uncles, on both sides of the family, everybody was and is very hardworking. Lots of blue collar, some white collar in the cousin world, but that was the one thing I knew I could control, because if I worked really hard, it made me feel valid, but it also gave me money, and money made me feel like I had some sense of control over my own reality. And it wasn't like I was making a ton of money, but it was money to pay my bills, let me go where I wanted to go, do what I wanted to do, those kinds of things. And so that at a very early age, like, I think I've told you guys about my experience in high school, but I did not like school. I did not want to go. All I wanted to do was work. And so my junior and senior year, I skipped school a lot. And as a result, I ended up going into a program where I only had to go to school for a couple of hours a day, and I was able to work 2 other jobs because that's really what I wanted to do. And I'm very blessed that that was able to happen. It was a blessing in disguise, and I'm not condoning that by any means, but I'm just telling you my experience. And obviously, like, do I say I regret it? I mean, I think I wish I would have enjoyed a bit more of the high school experience looking back. But anyway, I'm not going to get down the weeds on that. But the reason for me sharing that with you is it started that young, but I was also sick then. So for a lot of my 20s, I felt very, very ashamed of how I acted in high school and how I acted in college. Because college, I did great and I slid by on a lot of things. And I remember having dreams about not graduating from high school, which is not true. I did. I had dreams about not finishing college, which is not true because I did. Like, I would have these dreams regularly. Like, my mind was playing tricks on me because I felt so guilty and so much like this, like, worthless creature because I didn't do that the way everyone else did or the way I was supposed to. And I never took into account one single solitary time until 2 years ago that the reason I behaved that way was not because I was lazy. It was not because I didn't care. It was not because I was not capable. It was because I was sick. And not only was I sick, but I was hiding it from everyone besides my mommy and like 2 friends that witnessed that. Back then, I was drinking and partying and eating fast food. And so we just chalked it up to that. I never drew the line of the fact that this had continued to happen since grade school. I never drew the line that I ate so much because the only time I didn't feel nauseous when I was younger was when I was stuffed full. Which now we know, because I have had a parasite and I had H. pylori in my stomach, that they are, or in ulcers, that they all are more active when your stomach is empty, which is why I threw up every morning. So this is how deep and back this goes. I'm sharing this with you for a few reasons. Number 1, it's going to make what I'm about to explain to you make more sense. Number 2, you might want to try to do a timeline for yourself. If you've experienced a lot of things, it's not like I sat down when the doctor said, so give me a timeline of your symptoms, and I was just able to spit them all out. I had to look back. I had to do some math. Like, how old was I in this grade, like in this grade level? Because I remember the teacher's name and the grade that certain things occurred, and so I would go back and I did all this math. And the reason that I did, honestly, that I finally figured out the timeline was because I was so freaking annoyed when I finally found a doctor who was supposed to be a DO, who was supposed to look at me, my whole body, like not like a regular GP. And she said, are you sure that your symptoms aren't related to your breast implants? As if every other human that I've ever spoken to doesn't say that to me. Literally, it is the first thing everyone says. And I understand it's a thing. It is definitely a thing. There's a lot of women who have had illnesses attached to their breast implants. I've done a lot of research on this. I also have a timeline. My symptoms started in 2nd grade. They got worse in 4th grade. They got worse in junior high. They got worse again junior year. They got worse again towards my last year of college. They got, like I have the timeline now. I had to face a lot of ugly shit, but I did so out of the determination for me to tell this doctor that no, please look more. It is not my breast implants. Like, please look more. I had to call Tony after that meeting or that appointment. I'm like, am I crazy? And he was like, no, babe, you're not crazy. All these things were happening before you got your boobs. All of it happened before then. And I'm like, thank God. Because again, he's been in my world and in my circle, my corner for a really long time. So prior to, I never owned a company before him. I didn't have my boom job before him. I never worked out before him. Like, so there's a lot of pieces of my life that Tony is a measuring stick or like a memory card for, because those things didn't exist before him. So he is the one that knows. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, all of this to say, these are patterns that are really helpful to learn, because not only does it allow you to bob and weave and shift the way you're operating into a more healthy fashion that supports your life and what your body needs, but it also gives you and grants you something that every person who's ever been told nothing's wrong with you needs. Black and white. It's in black and white information. You're not crazy. You're not crazy. You're not alone. I just had this conversation with someone. My dad's going through some shit, and they were like, well, all of his blood work came back normal, so we don't know what's going on. And I was like, hello, who are you? Who do you think you're talking to? Like 20 freaking years of my blood work coming back normal. Hello, it wasn't until Dr. Olivia, look her up, drolivia.com. She's freaking amazing. It wasn't until Dr. Olivia that any blood work showed anything, because she was willing to look at things other than a frickin' CBC. Was my iron levels normal? Sure were. You do a broader spanned blood panel and see, yeah, my iron, it's there. I'm not absorbing it. So it doesn't frickin' matter if it's in my bloodstream. It's not being absorbed. So then it gets processed and, eliminated or executed, or you know what I'm saying, evacuated. That was the word. If someone has ever told you that you're crazy and there's nothing wrong with you, I hope this makes you feel a little bit better and gives you a little more. Maybe that's what you do. Get off this call or get off this show and make yourself a timeline. Do some research. Go back in medical bills. Talk to your parents. I actually was able to determine things based on when I worked where. So I went back through like old records and realized, okay, I worked at this place during this year. So how old did that make me? And then I remember this happening and I had to go to the hospital and da-da-da-da. So anyway, there's that. I didn't necessarily expect to say all those words about this, but here we are. So what are the lists for me? I used to teach people this process, and it's not a bad process by any means, but the way, again, I took it to such an extreme that became unhealthy for me. There's a process of there's a couple layers to this. One is getting everything out of your head and onto paper so that you can concentrate. Because we all have those moments where we feel like we're spinning around and round and round, we're getting nothing accomplished because we have 30,000 things blowing around in our brain and we can't organize them or know what needs to happen when. So this is a very valuable tool. Brain dump all those tasks onto a piece of paper, messy and crazy, and then walk away from it for a while, come back to it, and reorganize those items. Organize them by time sensitive first, and then you can adjust your priorities, and that's that. It's a great tool. Definitely. I will still do that when necessary. And I was making lists for lists. I was making daily, monthly, weekly lists, hourly lists, podcast lists, team lists, training lists, Facebook lists, home lists, groceries, food, things I needed to do for my body, things my dogs needed, things I needed to, guys, it was outrageous. And it brought me so much comfort, okay? So much comfort in the list making until I learned what the list making was doing. What was it taking place of? It was taking place of me allowing myself to sit in the very, very uncomfortable reality of what I don't have control over. Could I learn my body? Could I lean in and say, hey, body, what's going on? What do you need? How can I help you? I'm here. I'm here if you need me. I'm going to sit quietly with you and feel gravity and remember that I have legs. Those are somatic therapy references. Very, very helpful when, if anything I'm saying here resonates with you at all, look up Jessie Magic on Instagram. That's who you need. Jessi. Anyway, the lists prevented me from being uncomfortable. At least I thought. But what was happening is really difficult to heal. It's really difficult to address things when you're not letting yourself feel the uncomfortable feelings. So frustration, the feeling of how unfair this is. Things I don't like to talk about still, but they're so real. Being angry, like I'm allowed to be angry about this too, right? So all of those things were being pushed aside by the lists, and I loved it. It gave me this sense of trying to control that I had control over something when nothing else made sense, when I had no control over anything else. So I welcome you to think about where that might be happening in your own life. Where might you be focusing? And it's funny because I think when we do this, when you identify what this thing might be, we were like really obnoxious about it. Like a lot of people do this with working out, actually. They'll become hyper obsessed with working out because it's the only thing they can control. And a lot of times they end up breaking down because it's avoidant behavior. Like the avoidant behavior creates backlogs of feelings that eventually have to come out. I was talking to a woman the other day who was talking about how she's never had anxiety, depression, or anything mental health related, but she was in an abusive relationship. And there was a couple times that she had to go to the hospital because she was having such a bad panic attack. And she's like, it just wasn't me. And it made me look like I was crazy and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, honey, your body can only take so much. Eventually it has to purge. Like eventually it must kick it out. Like if you're not regularly, intentionally letting that energy move out of you, it pents up, it stores, and eventually you will burst. And what I mean when I say that is when we're in abusive situations or we're avoiding things, we freeze a lot. We go into fight or flight frozen state. And when we're in frozen state, the feelings aren't felt. The movements aren't made. The energy doesn't get to come out. Do you ever feel that like big buzz inside of your system and you're like, oh my, or like a day, you have a really big day and you go home and you lay down because you're so tired, but you can't fall asleep because your body's like, duh. That's energy that needs to get out. Like you need to go move around or shake or take a shower or lay on the floor for 10 minutes and breathe. Like there are certain things to do to make it move. I never knew this then. Like she didn't know that. So I was like, honey, there's nothing wrong with you. Nothing wrong with you at all. Your body was just doing what your body does. My coach, Jessie, likes to use deer as an example. When a deer gets scared, they shake. Or like an animal. When they're scared, they shake for like 5 minutes before, like after the initial fear wears off. And then they're okay. This is because a deer is not bogged down by excessive amounts of trying to intellectualize what's happening. We as humans try to intellectualize everything, therefore body doesn't get to do what it naturally would do to move the energy and not hurt you. It's very fascinating. You should look it up. It's definitely a thing. I'm going to have Jessie on the show and have her explain a little bit more about this in her words because she has amazing words. You guys are going to love her. You're going to love having her as a guest, but it'll be very important, and I think that'll be really helpful for you to understand a little bit more of some of the things that I've been sharing with you over the last couple of months specifically. But this entire conversation, my goal was, or it is, to be able to like give you some context to identify some of these things for yourself and just check in. That's really the thing. I'm not asking you to overhaul your life. I'm just asking you to be a little observant and check in with yourself. That's what I think. That's what I would do. All right, guys, as always, if you appreciated this message and liked it, please share it anywhere that you share podcasts. Please give us a review if you have not already. It helps the show so much. We appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to Operation B, the podcast. To support this message and to support the show, please make sure that you like, follow, and share the podcasts wherever you enjoy listening. And be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. Thank you for being here, and see you next time.